Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hustle.ai podcast. We are your hosts, Jitin and Sunaina. Before we get started, a quick introduction about us. I am Jitin. I'm the CEO and co-founder at MicroGigs. At MicroGigs, we use AI to help you build software products better, faster, and for less. So what we do is that leveraging AI, we automate different stages of software development process, which allows you to focus less on the development overheads and more on your ideas, and indirectly saving you time and money. In general, like my background has been in tech. I played different roles from software developer to different tech leadership roles. And I have with me a friend of mine, Sunena. So, Sunena, why don't you give us a quick background about yourself before we get started?
Awesome. Thanks, Jitin. Hi, everyone. My name is Sunaina. I'm a tech enthusiast and I have a background in product management. I'm really interested in learning about how AI can help us live happier lives. And I also love exploring different ideas and meeting with different people with different backgrounds and looking forward to exploring that in this podcast.
Awesome. So Sunan and I, we have been working together like maybe for last 3 to 4 years. We used to work together at TD, and while we were working, we used to have a lot of discussions and like brainstorming on how we could make the software development process better. And like with the recent trend in AI appearing on the scene, so we know that like we could cut short that journey. So maybe AI allows us to genuinely like make this process, remove the overheads, and kind of like get to a stage where software development is straight away between ideas to seeing something tangible in front of you. So we were having a lot of discussions on this topic, and so we thought, why not open up this topic to the general audience? We'd love to hear your ideas, your thoughts as we are discussing. We just don't want to keep these discussions between ourselves. So that was the idea behind this podcast. So Sunera, what do you have to say to this?
I think that's a great idea. Can't wait to start.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So as part of this process, we would be inviting some very interesting people. I would love to get their perspectives on how AI is going to impact like their day-to-day lives, how their job, and so on. So welcome. So you could find more details about us in the description below. And without wasting time, let's get started. So Sunil and I, we have been working together for like more than 4 years. So while we were at TD a couple of years back, we used to have a lot of discussions around how we could make the software development process much more efficient and better. And now with the advent of AI, like we know that we could cut short that journey like even faster. So we are like used to having a lot of discussions around how we could automate some process, how we could build some process faster, or how we could remove certain processes altogether. So this idea just popped up in our head, as we are having these discussions, maybe we could open up this to a larger forum, right? And that was the idea of us doing this podcast. So we welcome you to join us. Like we'd be like having different discussions and how AI could impact different industries. What are the new trends happening in this space? We would be inviting some very interesting people to talk about their perspectives and how they are using AI to solve their day-to-day problems, like in their work life situations. This will be very interesting conversations. Please join us, ask us questions. You should be able to reach us and with the contact details provided in the description below. We are looking forward to some very interesting conversations on this topic. So, Nana, anything you wish to add?
Looking forward to diving in.
Awesome. Let's get started. So, Sunana, what do you think? Where is this? What do you think about AI?
Oh, that's a broad place to start. But I guess it's a good time. It's a good time to talk about it because ChatGPT has only been around for 2 or 3 months. And even though there have been, GPT-powered tools out for a long time, we haven't seen one publicly. And the fact that it's taken even my mom, like if my grandmom was still around, I'm sure she'd be very interested in using it. Even the fact that it's so accessible is kind of what makes it interesting. Because I'm finding that it's not about, I'm an avid learner and now I'm changing the way that I think about learning. Instead of trying to find information and absorbing it, I'm focusing on how to ask the right questions. And I feel like that's such an alien skill set because you can easily get lost in a rabbit hole when you fall into ChatGPT, but then I always have to bring myself back and ask myself, how do I ask the right questions? And this plays into what I do at work because I'm a product manager, and part of that involves you can build any product, right? It's not hard. I mean, you do need skills, but you can employ a team of developers and you can tell them what to do. But how do you know what the right product is? And that's something that I've even tried to use ChatGPT to ask me the right questions, but I've been trying to figure out what is my competitive advantage here. And I don't know where I started with this, but I'm just going to keep talking.
No, that is actually like perfectly fine. Like, and this is the first time I'm hearing of like how ChatGPT is not just benefiting us, how it is making us better humans. Like how it's enabling us to like learn better, right? Like that's also a very interesting point. Like okay, when you have a some system which is there to answer any question that you want, like or help you with anything that you want. How are you going to use it? I think that's a very interesting point that you that you brought out. Like okay, so give an example. Like so when you say this have made you like a better learner because you're asking the right questions.
Yeah.
I mean, how did this translate to something else? Like I mean, other than using sitting in front of ChatGPT and using it. So
To answer your question about learning, I think what is missing in the way we learn currently is we try to learn a lot of information that's prescribed to us without much context. We don't know where it's going to be used. We don't know where to apply it. And we're not curious about it because, I mean, it's just given to us, right? So when that happens, it just goes into this void in your mind. And without a direct way to apply it, that information doesn't stick. But I find that when I have ChatGPT in front of me, I'm obviously curious enough to answer that question, which means that I'm much more motivated to remember that piece of information.
Okay.
And the fact that I'm asking that question means that there's a hole in my, not a hole, but like a plug in my brain where that information sits. So I'm able to create, when I learn from ChatGPT, that information sticks so much better than from when I'm, randomly reading something that somebody told me to read. And I think this has, especially like, with relation to the education system. To answer your question about an example in my life, well, part of my work involves working with developers, and I have tried on many occasions to get better at being technologically literate, but it is rather overwhelming. But now I've had a chance to, because ChatGPT is giving me direct questions, I'm able to ask, ChatGPT, okay, what's the tech stack for this? Why should it be like this? And I mean, it's much more accessible to me. So,
okay.
But how about you? You tell me about how you interact with it.
Well, something of like similar nature, like so for me, I've been trying to like whatever stuff I'm trying to do earlier, like I mean, I would be, let's say, hiring people off Upwork or Fiverr or somewhere to get like to keep things going. But now I found myself going to ChatGPT on and on. So as part of my day-to-day job, I also do program a lot. Even for my clients, I do programming and all that stuff. So give you an example. Let's say earlier there was a situation, say I need to build something. So usually the process is you Google what you need to do. Like you Google spits out some bunch of links. You go through some of those links one by one, and you figure out what is the right way to solve a problem. You copy paste that, bring it into your code base. You test it out, try it out. You get through it. Let's say this, if I'm very seriously focused on something, this whole process takes anywhere between 10 minutes to maybe up to 1 hour, depending on the complexity of the problem I'm trying to solve here. But with ChatGPT, especially on the coding side, right, I could just simply ask ChatGPT, okay, like how would I like build something of some, and the more specific I am, I get the results straight away. Within 1 to 2 minutes, I get the results. I'm able to put it in like into my code that I'm working on, and voila, like I get the results. So that has been a big big improvement, as in like how I'm saving time and how I'm like getting better as a developer as well, right? I mean, I'm not wasting time, as in let's say going through search and going through sorting through a bunch of results, figuring out which is the right one. Like I believe it's allowing me to cut short few steps. So that is like one of the prominent examples. But also on the other end, which is, I'm pretty sure almost everyone is doing it. If you need to write some content or something, you just ask ChatGPT. I was writing the terms and conditions of my website. I knew what I want to put in there, but for the verbiage, instead of hiring someone and getting someone to write it out, this was just a 2-minute exercise for me. So it's those combination of those things which I feel is making a big difference. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited. So far this product has been great. I'm excited to see where this goes, and also to some extent scared. I mean, as in, let's say, what is next? Because I guess in a long time, you're looking at an uncertainty where you don't know where you are. Let's say when your jobs are might be impacted, right? I don't want to say
Absolutely.
it is. I would say might be, right? So this is first time you're looking at some uncertainty over there,
Yeah.
and especially when you're looking at all the white collar jobs, this is actually it could be a threat, right? I mean,
Yeah.
right from let's say if you're a designer or a UX. I mean, the other day, what was it like? I forgot the name. Like
Oh, Galileo.
Galileo,
Yeah.
yeah, which could even create designs for you, right?
Yeah.
Wireframes. Now it is with GitHub Copilot. It is like testing your code. It is writing unit tests. It's like automatically doing a lot of stuff for you. Then like on the content side, I mean, BuzzFeed has been laying off a lot of content writers because of this news. I mean, the lawyers are at a threat because this could do a lot of their jobs there. So it's actually going to be a very interesting time, like especially across the world. Like when we are going to see a big restructuring how the white collar jobs are going to look like in next 5 years. I mean, I don't want to predict the timelines, but let's say whatever the short time span is. I mean, yeah. So, like, what do you feel? So when it comes to ChatGPT, like in terms of like the future, right? I mean, what do you think? Like, where is this whole thing headed? Like, just some wild guesses.
That's an interesting question. I mean, things are moving so much faster that it's a little bit scary. It's hard to keep up with what's going on. But in the future,
And when you say you're scared of like what exactly? Like,
scared in the sense that I'm starting to figure out, or I'm starting to wonder what my competitive advantage is anymore, because a lot of the skills, I mean, just like you said, right, white collar jobs, they're all being automated. So I'm progressively trying to figure out what is it that I can do that an AI can't. And of course, there might be a time when there is literally nothing that I can't do, that they can't do better. And then we'll talk about UBI and everything at that point. But I guess, yeah, how do you keep yourself relevant in this economy?
That's a very interesting point. Like, in my personal belief, like, so we would be looking at few things in stages right now. To be honest, like, it's really difficult to make any predictions because things have been moving at like such a breakneck speed, right? Like, of course, I guess everyone was aware what was happening with the open AI APIs. We were seeing products like Copy AI and Jasper AI being coming out, but no one really like understood what it meant until people got to try it out with ChatGPT, right? Like, I guess that was the big major moves here. And on top of that, like we also know for sure that Google is also going to enter the space. So we have the two the tech titans of the world who are going to compete on this. And like what history has said is that like the most innovation happens like when in the umbrella of competition, right? I mean, whatever new tech, whatever we have, right, from satellites to rockets and all happened under the umbrella of Cold War, right? So likewise, when these two mega giant corporations sitting on $100 billion of cash with access to some of the most smartest people, when they have put their smartest brains on this problem, they're going to see something which like something equivalent of what like the physical world saw in the 50s, 60s and 70s, right? Like it's unprecedented. Now, but having said that, what I feel is that this will usually happen in stages. Now, I cannot talk in general how it is gonna impact, let's say, all the white collar jobs. But let's say in terms of developers, I feel it will usually be in stages. Maybe the first stage is like it just makes developers' lives easy. In general, say, as I gave you an example, right? Instead of spending half an hour or something, I could do something in 2 minutes. Right. It means I'm able to absorb more volume of work. Like, people are able to move faster. We are able to release products faster. So that's what I see as, in the short term. In the medium term, what could happen is like, the nature of software development switches between having the skill and being able to translate something into a prompt.
Right.
Let's say if someone is coming to me with an idea, doesn't mean that okay, maybe the AI today won't be at a stage where it would be able to explain it that well, or rather get the results that you want that well. So this is where maybe someone with a technical knowledge might be able to get together, right? Let's say if you come to me and say, hey, I want to build a product which will sell shoes. Right. Now, okay, like maybe ChatGPT won't understand. I mean, of course, it might say, okay, go to Shopify, do a bunch of stuff, blah, 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 blah. But just as an example, like, I might be able to say, okay, build a landing page which displays the list of shoes.
Yeah.
Now that becomes a command, right? I mean, something that I know how things work. I might be able to translate to that.
Yeah.
Then I'd say, give me a page where I could check out with credit card. Then I would say, okay, whatever information is entered into credit card, store it in a database and keep this, track this with some ERP software or something, just so that we know how this inventory is gonna, keep track of the inventory and so on.
Right.
Now, this is where, say, my knowledge as a developer and also knowing how to use this tool will come in handy. So it will be a combination of these two things. So this is where we might be seeing an phase of I'm spending less time in coding, but more in talking to the machine. Or let's say if you're a senior developer, you also have you spend some time in coaching your junior developers, right? So this would be you like coaching your AI tool, right? I mean, understand the requirements, translate it, and then coach it. And the final stage is where, let's say, you are just typing in, give me something, let's say a shoe store, shop to sell shoes. Boom. It will ask you which color, blue, what's your logo? This is my name. What type of shoes? Like this type of shoes. Boom, here you go, right? Just publish this and you're good to sell. Now, this is where it is going to get very exciting and tricky and also scary, as in we don't know what. What would it mean to be a software developer? Because we are looking at a scenario where anyone could be a software developer. Is this going to mean that there would be more volume of work, which is a possibility, which has always been the trend with software development in general, right? The reason today we have so many software developers compared to, say, 90s is today's software development is comparatively easier than the way it was 20, 30 years back. So more people get to be software developers, and you have all the support system around them. Let's say you have BAs, you have product people, you have project managers. I mean, all the roles exist to support a developer, right? So you have all this industry built around that. So it could be a possibility that we might see more requirements in this space, people having every single idea taking a shape of its own. The equivalent example could be, let's say, with access to TikTok, you have so many people out of nowhere creating content, right? So many great musicians creating videos, and they are getting millions and millions of followers, and then they are cracking $1 million deals with all the mega brands. And that's what we saw with TikTok, right? You get someone getting access to a platform, and it's giving equal access, not equal opportunity, equal opportunity, not equal results, equal opportunity to, let's say, all the creators, at least to some extent. And we are seeing the growth on that platform, right? So something on software, when everyone has access to this, it would be interesting to watch, what happens, maybe, I don't know, my uncle might give me a call. Hey, I have this idea. Could you build this for me? And, my uncle might tell me that I'm willing to give you 50% partnership if something happens to this. Maybe that might become my income stream. So how smartly I could translate something to an idea and get something out of it, that becomes my income stream. And if I'm not good at it, my uncle will call someone else, and if that's a better product, that person will get share of that. That's my take on it. I don't know what you feel like.
That's even though I first of all, I love the idea of democratizing software development, because I am not a technical. I mean, I am not an engineer by training, so but I love to build. So having this accessible to me has now opened up a whole universe to me of ideas and things that I want to do. But I find it interesting that you said that this is going to create so much more volume. And I'm picturing a world where it's just a two-step process to create the next big product. So I'm wondering, what do you think as an entrepreneur differentiates the people who will succeed? If it's that easy to build, hypothetically, what is it that, two people can use the same tool, but what other characteristics does it take to make that product successful?
That is very difficult to answer, because, this is the first time you'd be looking at something of that similar situation, right? Or I don't know if you could draw parallels, let's say, from the world of TikToks, where everyone gets to create some content. But if you, let's say, if you go, I don't use TikTok much, but at least to some extent, the videos that pop up here and there, right? So I know there's that the content genre exists across multiple spectrums, right? Maybe one example, let's look at, let's say, video game streaming. Now, this was not a space anyone could think of 20 years back, right? But today there are there's $1 billion company, Twitch, which built this whole business model around it. It employs so many people, and it's also a revenue stream for so many content creators, right? So thing is, there might be new things that will be popping up. And the point I'm making is that, like, say, everyone might eventually end up finding what their niche is or whatever their interest is, and they might get to excel in that. So let's say in a world where knowledge is not a barrier, skill is not a barrier, only thing is your creativity and, let's say, your judgment or ideas, right? I don't even know if creativity is going to remain a barrier, right? I don't know if AI is going to crack that, but let's assume it is. I mean, and how two people think, that it's always different. So what AI thinks and what I could think might be different. I don't know if let's hoping that AI does not beat me at that. So that is one. But then could be judgment, right? Let's say there are these two ideas, which one I pick, right? Like, or can I, like, say, look at some past events and could I draw inferences and figure out, okay, maybe this is how future is going to look like, and get to judge this versus that. So I believe eventually it will come down to that. And when we are talking about, let's say, these two frontiers, creativity and judgment, it will even come down to what your interests are, what your niche is, like, what you really love doing. Because, say, I mean, I don't know anything about say trucks or transport, but say someone in that industry, if they're having access to do anything, they could do anything, right? Or likewise, but in the space of tech or something else, if I'm an expert here, or in some other topics, if I'm an expert there, and if I could do something over there, I believe that's where I will excel. So if to believe it, there are, like, I don't know, 7 billion, 8 billion people, everyone finding their own niche. I mean, I'm assuming it exists and it could be possible. And also, let's say people getting together and, like, helping out each other, right? Say I'm interested in this topic, you're interested in this topic, maybe 4 or 5 different people getting together, they are trying to do something together on this. So I believe that's how this whole, this working model, business model, everything is gonna look like. I don't think so there will be any specific answer. You find a niche, you excel in that. Like, otherwise, no. I mean, if I'm trying to compete with someone who loves trucks, I don't know if I would be able to, compete against that person. Simple.
That makes sense. No, that sounds like a utopia, because we eventually, right now we're kind of responding to the market and doing things that we don't necessarily love, but a world where you were able to make, assuming there was a demand for it, you're able to convert your interests into something that is supporting your livelihood. And that sounds like a great
so that sounds, I believe that's where this whole trend of AI is headed to. But I guess only thing that we could do at this stage is wait and watch. We'll see.
How did you get into, you were talking about finding your niche. I'm assuming that development and building micro gigs is something you're passionate about. So where did all of that start?
For me, it's difficult to answer, but I have always been interested in this. Even right from my university days, I kind of like the idea that sitting in front of a computer and could create something, you're spending your time in programming and it creates something out of it. I found that something like powerful, like something from taking this very concept of your idea taking shape into something tangible. I found that to be very interesting. So I guess fortunately, people who could do that, they were in demand, and naturally I got into programming. I started as a software developer, then I started helping people to build software products and so on, because again, I love doing it. So kind of for me, it was natural, it's not something I picked up, not something I trained. I got into it. Just to give you a background, my background was, my technical background was electronics and telecommunication. We did not have programming, but it's something that I did because I found it fascinating. It was good. So kind of on that, I think I don't know, and I don't have any specific way to mention this, but rather validate this. But I believe, say, every single person, when they're headed into their 20s or something, or in their teens, they have some inclination what they're like, right? Could be you like painting, you could like building, you could, like singing, dancing, something. There's something that interests you, or even it could be playing games, right? And these days we know that every single thing has opportunities opening up one way or another. So I don't think you could engineer it, maybe, but I think, keep looking, I don't know. So I think, what do you think? Say, Sunaina, should we just wrap this up for now and see how this went? This is our first podcast in the series.
Yes.
Most likely, I don't know if this will be released, but we'll see.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
All right.
awesome.
Thank you. So, just to wrap up, folks, like if you're looking for any software development needs, please look up microgigs.ai. You will have the find the contact information below. And we are, if you're looking to build software, we'd be happy to help you with that. Okay.